On this week's edition of the Fast Performance Baseball Podcast, Connor and I talk about Babe Ruth's diet, which went viral last week. And then our main topic today is trainer pet peeves, things that Connor and I get annoyed with our athletes here at Fast. And we mention them as pet peeves in the sense that these are things that athletes do that hinder their training and hinder their performance here in the facility. If athletes could mitigate these issues, their training would be a lot more efficient and they would start seeing the results that they would desire. All that and more on the Fast Performance Baseball Podcast. Welcome back to the Fast Performance Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Cole Thomas, with my co-host,
Connor Reynolds.
So Connor and I wanted to talk about the big thing that's going around the internet lately about this week is the Babe Ruth diet. And what people are talking about, like, you know, this guy is larger than life figure, having only lived 100 years ago. And, you know, there are things that are purported to have happened, things that are not purported to have happened. What's the line between myth and reality, legend and reality? So we wanted to start talking about it because it's been going viral the last couple of days. So, and I feel this is something that we can, it's a little facetious, but we can kind of say like, hey, our athletes should, hey, maybe you should follow this. It might be something there's some things in this. So, as they talked about at the beginning, Babe Ruth's every day, every morning breakfast, he drank a quart of bourbon and ginger ale to start the day. Just ripping a pint of bourbon just first thing in the morning.
Feel the burn, baby.
Feel the burn. And with that consisted of a steak, up to 1 dozen eggs, and potatoes every single morning. What do you think about that breakfast, Connor?
I think that could possibly be doable.
Okay.
The bourbon is the
depending on if you're of age
the rest of the day.
Yeah.
What are we doing the rest of the day? But 12 eggs, a porterhouse, and some potatoes. I think that could be doable. You have to like set your mind to it, but I think that's doable. I'm on board right now.
Minus the alcohol, I would fully endorse that as your everyday breakfast. I feel like that. That, you know, we have a lot of guys who have weight issues or don't put on the weight they should probably be. I'm like, I would definitely get you on the fast track to getting whatever weight you want to achieve.
Oh, yeah.
And so then one of the other things was his lunch or his dinner.
Oh, lunch.
So, well, what was his? So this one was like, what was it like? He would drink like,
it was he would eat 4 hot dogs.
4 hot dogs.
And with every hot dog, he would then also drink a Coke.
A Coke, right? And this is like early, not the cocaine-filled Coca-Cola. I think they got rid of that right before this time period. But yes, I don't recommend the Coca-Cola. I mean, maybe you get the old school Coca-Cola because that was all like pure cane sugar, not the high fructose corn syrup that it is today. So it might be a little cleaner, might be a little healthier for you. But the 4 hot dogs,
doable if you need it.
Doable if you need it. Doable if you need it. And then reportedly his dinner often consisted of 2 porterhouse steaks, a double order of cottage fried potatoes, which I think is that just French fries or is that okay?
Like that.
And then 2 heads of lettuce and then 2 apple pies a la mode.
And with the 2 heads of lettuce, he would also do half of a jar of blue cheese.
Yeah, he would douse it in blue cheese. And then between his lunch and his dinner, he also ate up to 4 hot dogs and 4 bottles of Coca-Cola.
Again. Like,
I just want this. That's one that you read that and you're just like, how? How is that possible?
So I think it'd be doable for myself.
Okay.
Until we got to the second round of hot dogs. Like, I think I might be able to.
So you can go dinner, you can go breakfast, first 4 hot dogs with the Cokes. I think the Cokes I couldn't do. The Cokes I couldn't do.
See,
not that I don't like Coke. That's just a lot of carbon. That's a lot of sugar.
Now, I'm not gonna lie. I've been able to do it before. I've been able to do it before. Now, it's tough, but like I think after the 4 Cokes and the 4 hot dogs, that's where I think my cap would be, where like for the rest of the day, I am not doing anything. I'm not eating anything more. And then to add on 2 porterhouse steaks, 2 heads of lettuce, and 2 apple pies a la mode, which means there's ice cream on top of it. That's tough.
That's a lot. It's a lot of calories. And to do that and don't get me wrong, we're talking about Babe Ruth, and if you guys have ever seen videos or pictures of Babe Ruth, he was not
It makes sense.
He was not a beacon of health.
It makes sense.
But for a guy who hit 700 home runs in his career, and had for a long time had a single season home run record, had 56, I think still stands like he has like about 56 records in Major League Baseball. He's a living legend now. There's stories galore about him
calling his shot.
Yeah, it's like in another 100 years, he's going to be just like this lionized, like you don't know what's true, what's not. It's going to be the same thing of like the George Washington, like cutting down the cherry tree. Like we always say, like
wooden teeth.
Exactly. Well, those were real, but
were they wooden?
Yes, they were. No, he had hippopotamus teeth too. He did not have good teeth. I'm
not disagreeing with that.
George Washington did not have good teeth. I will tell you that. But it's one of those like, he once hit a ball 800 feet, and obviously everyone who would be alive at that time would have been dead, and there's no way to track that. So you could just in another 50 years to 100 years, you could just make stuff up about
20 more feet.
Yeah, it's gonna so that now then it's gonna turn into like, oh, he ate this many steaks at dinner, he ate this many eggs, he ate at this many, all this bourbon, all this beer, all this Coca-Cola.
It's the fisherman stories.
The what? Oh yeah, a fisherman story.
To there, to there.
Yeah, every year an extra inch is added. Yeah. What would you say? We're having a little fun with this. It's a little facetious, but like, I think this goes into what we try to tell athletes all the time. Just eat some food, put some weight on. You don't have to go to that extent, but it's, obviously fueling your body helps you with peak performance.
One of the best quotes or things I've heard on this is from JP Fashone, which I think this might be the first
Shout out PJ or JP.
I think it was the first time I brought up JP on this podcast, but he's a co-host of one that I do called Hit Chat Chit Chat, and so we talk a lot about it. And he said that if you're someone that does struggle with weight, it's going to be easier to try and get round and then slim down from that than it is to stay there and try and get wider from it.
Right.
And so it's one of those where it's like, hey, screw it. Try one of his meals. You know what I'm saying? And if doing one of those meals for like 2 weeks straight, just one of them, substitute one of your normal meals for one of those meals. If that ain't cutting it, add in another one of his meals and just keep going until all of a sudden that number starts jumping up, and then go from there.
Yeah. We try to lay out in our goals for new athletes all the time. Like, here's what your goals need to be for, diet, fueling the workouts you do. And here's like, okay, well, I need to gain 10, 15, 20 pounds by the time season starts. How many calories do you need to be putting down? And I tell guys all the time, like, really track those numbers. Like, use something like MyFitnessPal, or I think your phone has an app now where you can track how many calories you put down by the food items. And for MyFitnessPal does it. There's 1,000 apps on the app stores that can, do that job. Track how much food you eat in a day, or, what food you eat in a day. And most guys, I feel, would be surprised by how few calories they actually do eat.
And do it over to start, just 3-day span.
Yeah.
Because there might be that one day where you do, if it's the only day you track and it's the day where you're able to eat a lot, you're going to go, oh, wow, I eat this much. And you're going to think, I do that every day.
Right.
No, you probably don't. So track it over like a small sample size, 2 days, 3 days, something like that, and then keep going from there.
Exactly. If you guys have any stories or any comments on the Babe Ruth diet, let us know down in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Are you able to complete the Babe Ruth challenge?
Yeah, can you complete the Babe Ruth challenge?
And if you're not of age, no bourbon.
No bourbon. But the Cokes, replace the bourbon with more Coke.
There you go.
There you go. That's how we'll change that scenario.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our main topic today. What's our topic, Connor?
We're going to be going over pet peeves as an instructor.
Ooh.
Yes, sir.
So I want to preface this segment for trainers, for players, for parents, anybody listening out there. So we are not doing this as like these are things that really annoy us, or I mean they do annoy us,
As
but
humans.
as humans they annoy us as trainers, and not in the fact that you are wasting time or our time or anything like that. It's you are hindering your development as a player. These are things that if you guys can lock in and lock in on the things we get annoyed by, then your success becomes an easier path. You limit the speed bumps, you limit the size and the distance between these speed bumps, and we can just work on the things we want to be working on as trainers, as athletes, as people that come in to invest in what we do here at Fast. These are the things that if you guys lock these in, your path is a lot easier and you start seeing that success that you want to be seeing. So Connor, I'll give you the first pick in maybe this is our Mount Rushmore, our top 10, whatever we want to call it. So I'll give you one of one pick.
I love it. So going to start off my one of one of pet peeves is going to be when you're going through and you're working with a player and they're either completely almost silent and they're not saying a word or anything like that, or when they're overly agreeing to where it's a point where I don't feel as the instructor I'm getting honest feedback or if feedback at all. And so when we're going through, if you have somebody that almost talking to like a brick wall, I'm not getting any feedback as an instructor, so I don't know how to make adjustments for this individual player, because we want to make individual adjustments for that player, not looking to necessarily just put a blanket, cookie cutter and go through and is like, this is what we always do, this is what we only do. We like to try and cater it to the individual. And so if we have somebody that is either A, not giving us any feedback, or B, is not, is only agreeing to where it's like hey, let's try this. Yep. How did I feel? Oh, that was amazing. That was the best. Oh my God, I love it. And it's like, did you though?
It's that being honest and understanding that I have an idea of what I want you to be able to accomplish in your mechanics or in your swing or something like that, but I'm not in your body. I'm not feeling what it is you feel. So you have to give me feedback of how deep did you feel like you got, right? There's that real versus feel aspect where we're taking video of guys, but it's like at the end of the day, it's like I'm not the one in your body, you're the one in your body, and you need to tell me how your body feels, because it's like you're saying, like if you're just yes, this felt good or whatever, I can't really do anything with that. I can't. I could do something with it, but it makes me feel like as a trainer, I'm like, all right, it's time to move on to the next thing, which if we haven't actually corrected the thing we wanted to work on, then we have to go back all the way and revisit it. So it's kind of like we've taken 2 steps back instead of making our 2 steps forward, right?
It's so frustrating.
Right.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah. It's like, be communicative with us. We're adults, and if something's not working for you, we can swallow our pride and move on to the next thing that might help you as well. It's not just one method of doing something is the only method we know how to do it, right? We can make adjustments to those things, but you have to be upfront and you have to be honest and you have to inform us on these kinds of things.
And there might be something where, and we don't take it personal, if you don't like it or you don't agree with us, tell us why. And if you don't know why, try in your best words explain what is making it to where you don't think you're able to do this. Because then us as an instructor, we can take that and go like, all right, what is making it to where you're not able to do this? What do we need to make sure we need to work on?
Right.
If it's like, all right, well, we could do a different drill with the same focus, then let's do that. But if we have no feedback at all, we can't make that adjustment. And we're just going to kind of keep force feeding drills at you until we do get that kind of feedback.
Right. All right. So my first pick in our pet peeves draft is, so I wrote the constant remind guy is what I called him. And this is the guy who never really remembers the little things in their training, right? This is the guy who comes in and like forgets half the warm up, forgets how to do his dynamic, forgets how to do J bands, forgets how to do his plyo care routine, and is like, I give you the benefit of the doubt.
Hitter, so that way I can make those adjustments like we were just talking about, getting that feedback. If it's false feedback, generally parents give false feedback. I can't get a true gauge of what we need to work on.
Right. I think, yeah, it's one of those, like, it's a defense mechanism for the kid where you've got to, for the kid at least, and for the parent, is you've got to be able to teach your kid how to be resilient and be able to take control of their career. This is their career. This is their training. This is their development. They have to take control of it, or they have to take ownership of it, because if it's not their ownership, then what is their real sense of, I need this, or I need to be better at this? Like, if they're always constantly looking at the parent and not able to answer my question to them directly, then, and I get there's some kids who are just shy and they need somebody to, but it's one of those things, you have to learn how to not be that person. You have to be able to take authority into your career and talk to you, talk to me, be assertive in answering questions, answering, anything. Like, if I ask you a question about, like, how, like I talked about earlier, is like, how did something feel? Or no, what was your first pick? Like, how did something feel? And they can't answer you. I'm like, okay, well, we can't progress. We can't get to the next stage of your development. We have to keep constantly working on these things, because you can't give me a straight answer, and you need your parent to tell me, okay, here's what Johnny All-Star felt.
Yep.
On this drill. I was like, well, how do you know? You're not in their body either.
Right.
So, so it's one of those things, like, kids that are listening to this, and parents that are listening to this, is learn and teach your kid. And if you're the kid, learn how to create some authority in your career. It's stuff that's going to help you down the line as well.
Oh yeah, massively. And what you got for your second pick there, my guy?
My second pick is the inconsistent scheduling guy, or the inconsistent show up guy.
Oh, there's the worst.
Because
when they're here, they want to.
Right.
They're not here often.
Right. And it's one of those, I give you a lot of credit if, people have work, people have schedules that are all crazy. But this goes back to our first episode, the Priorities podcast, where it's like, if this is a priority, you would make it a priority. Yeah. And it's one of those, I tell guys all the time, it's like, let's have a consistent schedule. Like, if you're going to if we're doing our in-season work, I need you on Wednesday and I need you on Sunday or something like that, depending on your game schedule, obviously. But now we're getting into the fall season where guys aren't playing as much. The set dates of what we're playing is, we know what those are, but you show up on Tuesday and then you come in on Friday, I'm fine with that. But then the next week, you don't come Monday, you don't come Tuesday, you come on a Wednesday, and they're like, oh, I got to make sure I got to schedule this Thursday. I'm like, well, I can't do anything with you on Thursday if we threw a bullpen or we did a velocity day. Those are going to be your recovery days, which I'm fine with getting you to do a recovery day, but that's not what you're paying me to do. It's having a consistent schedule to aid in your development. I try to get guys to be on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule as much as possible, or Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, where, like, I can build in recovery days. But it's just, if you're just kind of picking and choosing and throwing at the dart what days you're going to come in, it becomes very difficult to create a sustainable way of development, a sustainable schedule, a sustainable path.
It's a Russian roulette.
Exactly.
It's just, all right. Yeah, I'm going in today. Oh, no, not going in today.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Yeah. And it's one of those, it's like, this is the thing, it's like, it's not inconvenient. It's annoying. It's not inconvenient to me, but it's inconvenient for you. But you may not realize it. And I think this goes into parents as well, where they just kind of don't really understand the value of consistency. They just like, oh, we haven't been in a couple of weeks, let's go schedule this day. Or we haven't been in this week, let's go schedule this thing. Like, well, why? What are you doing? Right? Outside, I'm here all these hours of all these days, and you can't be consistent on the scheduling. It's very tough to get anything accomplished. If I don't know what you've done outside of the schedule since the last time I saw you, I'm going to be very cautious to push you because I don't know what your throwing's done. I don't know what your bullpens have been like. I don't know if you even thrown a bullpen. Like I had one kid yesterday who I want to do velocity with, and he goes like, "Well, I can't do that. I threw a bullpen yesterday." I'm like, "Well, shit." And it's just frustrating because we want to create a clear linear path of development, but when you go MIA for a few days, it becomes very difficult to accomplish those goals that you want to accomplish. But that one goes again to what I said earlier. If this is a priority to you, you will make it a priority. But if you're inconsistent, to me, it shows me that this is not a priority to you. This is just like, I get to show up whenever I feel like it on a whim. And whether I make those jumps in development or not is, hopefully I get there. But if I don't, it's whatever. But then we get those parents and those kids who go like, "Well, I never saw development." Like, well, you weren't here enough. So, what is your third pick? Oh, unless you had something to.
I was gonna say, it's like when you're trying to build that beach body, right?
Right.
Like if your goal is to get a beach body, but you only come in once every couple weeks, or you do one session on a Tuesday, next week you do it on a Friday, blah blah blah, you're not gonna get tone muscle, or you're not gonna get the beach body. You might get some tone muscles. That'll be nice. That'll stick around for a little bit as long as you keep working at it. But the moment you stop working at it, they're gone. So it's going to take consistency. It's going to take where you're making it, like you said, a priority. Because if that's what you want to do, that is something that you're going to have to invest in.
Right.
It's not going to happen right away. It's a long-term investment. So the more you can put into that investment consistently, the more you're going to get on the back end.
Right. All right. Number 3 pick.
Number 3 pick is going to be the guys and gals, seen them both, that when you're trying something new are just unwilling to do it to a point where they will just half-ass it just to get through it, just to get the other side. And I'll give an example of a scenario where I was working with a hitter, and the hitter, we were doing a drill called bat pointers. You want to get your bat to point straight and directly to whatever direction on the field you hit. If you hit to left, bat pointing left. Hit it right, bat pointing right. And this athlete, good athlete, college hitter, already in college. So it's not that this is a bad hitter, but was unable to do the drill. And for me as the instructor, I was sitting there and I was like, all right, like, why is this athlete unable to do this drill? What is making it to where they're not able to do it? So I went through and I was like, hey, like, let's see if we can do this. The athlete immediately was like, well, why? And I was like, all right, like, I'm not saying don't ask whys. My response was like, I'm not too sure. You're struggling to do it. Other hitters that are less of, that are not college hitters, they can do it. You can't do it. Why? And so I went through and I was like, hey, try your absolute hardest for me on these next 5 swings. This athlete, just because the athlete wasn't able to do it, was just wanting to move on. Just like, let's get over this. I don't like sucking. So I want to get through this sucking part as quick as possible. So they went through and just gave me like 3 or 4, like just half-ass swings. And it's like, all right, can we move on? It's like, no. We haven't answered the question of why can't we do it.
Doesn't work that way.
We haven't answered the question of why can't you do it. And so until we can find that out, I don't know what drill to go to next, because you haven't showed me what we need to work on. This is a progression. And so for me, it's like, I'm not having you do this different or weird drill just so that way you look funny. I'm having us do it so that way I can understand the process of why you can't, or B, you find the process of how you can. And so to have an athlete that is just like, their mind's already made that I'm not going to do this or that. For me, that's a tough part, because as the instructor, it's like, all right, well, I don't know why it's not working. I don't know what to go to next. So, all right, I'm going to take a shot in the dark.
Would you put that in the same vein as the guy who maybe they went to a hitting coach or they went to a pitching coach prior to you, and they really like that pitching coach, or for whatever reason, they're not seeing that person anymore. And it's I learned it this way, or I learned it that way. Your way is wrong. Yes. I don't understand. I don't know why it's wrong, but I just believe in my heart it's wrong. And like, my method of development is different from the way they've learned it in the past from another coach or a parent or something like that, and where they're just closed minded to anything that goes against what they've already previously learned.
100%. Same athlete. And the big thing to why I would say that those are the same athletes is it's not that if you're coming from another instructor and they do it differently than how we do it, like that's fine. I get that. It's the piece where you said that you're wrong because you don't do it the way that I did it.
Right.
That's where it's the same idea for me as an athlete that's like, I'm not going to do this. Like you said, I don't know why. I'm just not going to do it. And it's like, all right, well, this is a give and take. As much as you put in, you're going to take out. And me as the instructor, this is my job. You're hiring me. This is how I pay my bills. So it's not going to be a question of if I'm bought in or if I'm willing. It's going to be the question of you're willing. And if you're not willing, that's where it's tough. And that's where there's no give, there's no budge, there's no wiggle room on that. And that's what makes it tough.
It's being able to understand or comprehend that there are different strokes for different folks. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. There's 1,000 ways to do it. And just what you believe is the right way to do it is not necessarily the right thing for you.
Yep.
Right. There's a million ways. There's a million schools of thought around this game. And that's where you've got to be willing to identify what has worked for you in the past. And it's like the same thing is, if you're coming to me and you don't agree with anything that I say, then why are you coming to me?
Or if you're not even willing to listen to why I think or feel this way.
Right.
It's that like inability to budge.
Right. But it's like, I think athletes fall into this false sense of, oh, it's made me successful for this long. If I just keep on this train, my success will only just keep going, right? But we all both know that something we've talked about in the past is like things like skills at scale. What makes you successful at 10U is not going to make you successful at 12U. It's not going to make you successful at 14, 16, 18, right? You have to be constantly developing yourself and constantly adding in new bits and pieces to further yourself through this game and allow you to compete at a high level. But if you're only locked into, this is what worked for me when I was 10 years old, I'm just going to keep on doing it. I mean, good luck playing 4 years. Good luck playing past the 14U level. If you continue to be the same athlete you were 4 years ago, unless you're just, unless you're just one of those unicorns.
No, don't even give that to them because then everyone's going to think they're that unicorn.
Exactly. Everyone's going to think they're the unicorn. So it's be willing to give yourself to another person and another perspective on how to develop yourself as a baseball athlete.
What I have found, and bringing on to the unicorn subject, is generally the people that are unicorns don't know that they're unicorns. And that's what makes them a unicorn.
Absolutely. That's the only people who don't know they're unicorns are the unicorns, and the only people that can identify the are the coaches. You as a player, and unless someone just butters your butt the entire year all the way, like you're gonna be so good one day,
doesn't work.
Doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work.
And I've known a lot of guys who've been told like you were going to be legit one day, who it just comes around to bite them in the ass later down the line.
Oh yeah. So what's your third?
My third pick is I don't know which way I want to go with. Do I want to go with the good one or because I got a lot for honorable mentions.
Heyo.
But I'll go number 3 is the toxic relationship guy. Toxic family relationship, toxic like girlfriend relationships, if that's something that's in going on, toxic friendships, like you're hanging out with the wrong people who are not aligned with your goals, right? So I've had a few athletes in the past who are in relationships with girlfriends who are a little domineering, who are always kind of constantly, it's like those girls you see, like the domineering girlfriend, like the crazy one, the stereotypical crazy one.
The ones that act like they've been dating for 5 years, but it's only been 5 weeks.
Right. It's even maybe a year, maybe it's something like that, but it's like the girls who constantly kind of crave attention is what takes away from that athlete's development, right?
Yep.
So, something I try to tell guys all the time, and what we try to tell, athletes, not even just the baseball athletes, but even just the other athletes that work on the strength and conditioning side is, know what your priorities are. If your priority is to be a good baseball player, get really good at baseball, because the girls will come.
Oh yeah.
There are girls all over this world that will somehow find interest in you just because you got this one girl that you're really infatuated with in high school.
In your 5-mile radius.
In your 5 mile radius that goes to your same school or goes to in the school at the same district or whatever, is one like I don't know how I say this is baseball is finite. Your ability to be good at baseball is finite. Your ability to find a girlfriend or a wife or whatever it might be, love is infinite. Your time to do that is there. Well, it is finite because we all expire at some point, but you'll have plenty of time to figure those things out. But your time and your window to be really good at baseball, if that is your priority, is very limited and is very finite.
Yep.
So what I try to tell people is take advantage of the things that are finite first, and then take care of the things that are fairly infinite, right?
I like that. I like that a lot.
Because one of those things like, the other day, he's undefeated. Undefeated in this world.
It is.
I would say, it's killed more careers than injury, than psychological trauma, than anything else. I've known more baseball players who end their careers really good, really well, way too early, just because got in the way.
It rules all, man. It's the root of evil.
All right. What is your fourth?
Fourth pick is going to be the athlete that is unable to carry over what we have worked or learned in past sessions into their current session. The athlete that...
So this kind of goes into my first one.
I was going to say, it's exactly with the guy that shows up, and I've had guys that come in consistently that are unable to regurgitate what we have worked on in the past, where they'll get in the cage, they'll start hitting, and like thinking of exactly one time where we had an athlete come in on Wednesday and they were coming back on Friday. Two athletes, both Wednesday, both Friday. Both athletes had the same issue going through, and after Wednesday's session, I was like, hey, when we're taking our notes, I was like, we are struggling with being able to hit the high pitch consistently. So I want your entire warm up moving forward for like the next month to where you're only hitting high T and you are not allowed to have the ball hit the top of the ceiling.
Yeah.
We have to keep it below the top and we just got to ride it. And then we go to Friday. They start getting their warm up out, and guess who did not take one swing off of high T? Both of them.
Yeah.
And when we got done with their warm up, I sat them down and I was like, hey, do you guys remember what we talked about last week or last time I saw you guys, which was Wednesday? And they're like, swing hard.
I mean, I'm happy you remembered that.
Right. And it's like, they're going over like the usuals. And it's like, well, what did we talk about with the warm up? They just looked at me like they were like, what? And so what ended up happening is if their warm up is 15 minutes, we just had to take another 10 minutes to go over why the 15-minute warm up that they did wasn't warming them up. They were swinging, but it wasn't preparing them for what we were about to do or need to focus on in that current session. And so what ended up happening is we had to take half of the lesson to go over what we had just went over that previous Wednesday. So now we've lost half of our session to talk about something that we had already previously talked about. And so that makes it to us where instead of us being able to take step in the right direction, it's a step forward, half a step back. Step forward, half a step back. Step forward, half a step back. Now we're still gaining ground, but it's not at the rate that everyone else is gaining ground.
Right.
And as an instructor, it's just frustrating.
Yeah. No, I got nothing to elaborate on that because it's something we talked about prior already. But yeah, it's just pay attention to what you're doing and take it seriously. There's a reason. There's always reasoning and logic behind everything we do.
Yep. Whether you know it or not.
Whether you know it or not, there's a reason we have you doing a specific drill or a specific exercise, or like on my side, it's the perspective, correctives for your mobility, like your pelvic correctives or shoulder correctives. Like the reason I have you doing all these exercises that seem goofy to you is because you need it.
Yeah.
And you need to fix it quickly because it hinders a lot of things you do in the pitching motion. It hinders the things you do on the hitting side. Right? We're doing these small things to make the big things easier. Right? And I feel like sometimes that gets a little lost. That's where the forest gets lost through the trees.
Yep.
Where if you take advantage of the small things, then the big things become a lot easier to manage, to become a lot easier to handle. we take advantage of the small things that hold us back. Now all the big things we want to accomplish become way easier.
100%.
So my fourth and final pick is this one's a little more goofy, but it's the poor shoe choice guy. So nothing annoys me more, and I give some kids some credit for some things, but it's just like, hey, get different shoes. Like when we do pull downs, or we do mound velos, or we do any kind of work on the mound.
The Yeezys ain't cutting it, boys.
Yeah, the Yeezys, the Chuck Taylors, the Vans. I can't tell you how many guys come in with Vans, and then they're good up to a point, but when they're like the worn down Vans, where there's the rubber, the waffle, and the rubber's gone, there's no traction whatsoever, and you're slipping and sliding everywhere because you can't grip the ground, then it just turns into, it's like a Benny Hill sketch, that song where just think crazy things are happening. And, you'll do a mound velo with those shoes on and your foot keeps sliding out and you can't hit PRs because you can't transfer that energy back up the connect chain. And then you go like, oh, why am I not throwing? It's like, well, your front leg isn't stable.
Yep.
Or you can't get into your back foot because your shoe choice is not good. That's a little more of a minor one, but it's something that still just kind of annoys me.
And I'll go with it to add on to that. It's the people that either don't bring the correct equipment,
right,
and or forget the equipment in general. I've had times where I've had kids show up to the hitting cage for a hitting lesson that did not have a bat.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are we going to use? And they're like, well, do you have an extra one? I was like, well, yeah, I got extras.
You got a lot of bats.
Like, come on, dog. Like, what are we doing? You're not going to try and go for a drive without your keys. Like,
right.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, you're not going to go to the golf course without your driver.
Yeah.
Or, it's like you can't go to school without your backpack. You can't go to, just.
What are we doing?
It's just responsibility and understanding how to put yourself in the best position to succeed.
100%.
All right, so those are we called it. We'll go with our Mount Rushmore. So do we have any honorable mentions?
I do have one honorable mention.
Okay.
And in all seriousness, probably would have been my one of one. It's just one of those to where it's like, it's massive. I just knew you weren't going to pick it. So I was able to kind of keep it in the back pocket, allow it to be an honorable mention. But if we're making the graphics on it, I would like to have it as an asterisk, as a should be one of one. It's going to be, kids got to have phones, man. Like, it pisses me off when I see kids come in and think back to it. All of the really good athletes.
Oh, yeah. No will.
Gotta have a.
All right, so on a little more of a serious track, I also had the kids that don't ask questions.
Yep.
This one actually should have probably been my number one, but I didn't. I don't know why I didn't do it, but it's the guy who can't take care of themselves outside of the facility. The guys who, we make goal sheets for all of our athletes. It's the guys who I know I need to be doing this to accomplish it, but yet I don't do it. So it's like, make sure I get all the hours of sleep I need. I'm eating all the calories I need. I'm giving myself the time to recover from my previous workout.
Yeah.
And I'm not burning myself. I'm taking care of my homework. I'm taking care of my relationships. I'm taking care of all these things, doing these little things. That way my priority when it's here is the baseball, all the training, all the throwing, and I can get those I can take care of these things that will allow my baseball to improve. Right. But it's what I tell guys, like, if you can't take care of your sleep habits, you can't go to bed at the right time, you can't wake up at the right time, you can't make sure you eat breakfast, whatever that might be, I would prefer you have as much for breakfast as you can, but if you can't manage that, that's something, right? You should consider it unacceptable for yourself and for your career that you don't eat as many calories as you should be.
Yep.
You should be embarrassed by that. You should want to take it seriously, because that's it can either help you or it can definitely hinder more, and it will hinder you more than anything. If you're not getting your sleep, you're not eating your calories, you're not getting in the weight room, you're not taking care, foam rolling or doing everything you can to make sure your body feels better after a workout. That way it can bounce back the next time out.
Right.
So that's another one of those pet peeves where just take care of the little shit. you can't take care of the little things, it's,
if you can't feed yourself, if you can't drink water,
Oh.
how are we going to expect for you to be doing and remembering the warm up that we have you do?
Right.
How are you going? If you can't remember the basic functions of human life, I don't think you going and being able to remember the Jager band warm up or our 3D strap for the hitting warm up. Like, if you're not able to remember to drink water, I don't think you're going to be able to remember the other things.
Right.
And you got to drink water. So if you can't do the little things, you're not going to be able to do the things that you need to be able to do.
Right. And then my last honorable mention is the guy who only wants to do the fun stuff. It's the guy who, like, for us on the pitching side, is the guy who watches Instagram, watches Trevor Bauer videos, or watches Driveline videos.
Which we love.
Which we, don't get me wrong, I love all those videos, but it's, they only see the fun stuff on Instagram. They only see the pull downs, the mountain velos, the velo slaps, the smelling salts. They see all this hype stuff, and that's their impression of what it is we do. That's like 5 to 10% of the stuff we do.
Yep.
We on the pitching side primarily, we work a lot of movement. We work a lot of, we want to work on pitch design. We want to work on everything that's going to make you a better pitcher, right? That stuff's only a piece of the training program, of the plan, of the process. But if you only see that, it's like, I only come on the days where we do the fun stuff, you're not only going to see minimal results. I know guys we've had plenty of guys in the past, college guys, high school guys, who only come for plyo velo and mount velo day, or pull down days. And I know one guy in particular was a college guy who would do that. He would come on velo days. And then at the end of the summer, he tore his UCL because he wasn't doing anything in the middle of the week. Which for our college guys, we allow you to come Monday through Friday. You just take advantage of it. But if you're only coming for the fun stuff, and you're not, once again, this goes back to my other element, you're not taking care of yourself outside of the facility. It's only just a recipe for disaster. Either you're not going to see the progress you want, or worse is you're going to get injured doing this kind of stuff. So, there's a reason we take more time doing the boring stuff, and then that way the fun stuff becomes more efficient. It actually does the things we want it to do. I just hit my mic, sorry. But, the fun stuff will come once you get the boring stuff done and you can do all the boring stuff right. Because then we can be healthy when we do the fun stuff, and we can get PRs, we can do the velo slaps, and we can do the salts and all that. And we know that, all right, you've done the little things. Now let's go do the fun things and see all this progress you're about to make.
Think of it as like getting ready for school, right? It's one of those things where no one's sitting there watching you take a shower, hopefully. No one's sitting there watching you comb your hair. No one's sitting there watching you do all the things. Now, when you show up to school and you smell good and your hair's nice and you got the cool clothes on, all that stuff, that's what people see. They don't see the preparation work of everything that you've done.
Right.
And so it's like, if you were to never take a shower, if you were to never do your hair, if you were to never, like, you can try and put on as much axe as you want, but it's all, like, everyone's going to know. Everyone's going to see through.
It's exactly like, if you don't take that time to prepare, like, you take a shower, you don't shave if you got facial hair, you don't comb your hair, and you're sitting there like, well, why aren't the girls talking to me?
It's like, I think it's when no one's looking, what are you doing?
Right. It's the same thing like with schoolwork. It's like, if you don't do your homework, you don't do some extra studying on top of it, and you go like, oh, why am I not getting an A in this class?
Yep. Same exact work.
Same exact theory, same exact process. Take advantage of these little things, and sometimes you can go a little extra on them. It doesn't hurt to be a little extra on your recovery, a little bit extra on your drill work, on your feels work. You can go a little, extra is never going to harm you. Worst case, it doesn't really do anything for you, and the best case, it might help you immensely. Right. So it's not, the more of the boring stuff you can accomplish, and the better you can get at the boring stuff, the better the fun stuff will be at the very end.
100%.
Trainers that are listening to this podcast, athletes listening to this, like, what are pet peeves you notice in other athletes, other parents, other trainers that you guys have encountered in the past? Leave those down in the comments and let us know. wrapping up this week's episode, Connor, do you have anything to plug?
Oh, well, I do. Thank you, Cole.
How convenient.
Right. For anyone listening, we are recording this on, what is this, October 13th, and it's going to be live on Tuesday the following week. So we're going to have a couple of weeks before we're doing a Hit Tracks Halloween tournament.
Ooh.
So this is going to be 6 teams of 3. We're going to be hitting off the machine using Hit Tracks. Guys are going to be wearing costumes.
So this episode you should be listening to this on October 18th.
Ayo. So we have from the 18th, we have like
you'd have
less than 2 weeks. Was that 10 days?
No, it's
12 days.
No, it's like 13 days.
Ayo. So
you'd have just 2 weeks minus a day.
Right. So we're going to be going through. It's going to be pitching machine. It's going to be live streamed as well. So that way, anybody, grandma, grandpa, coaches, anybody can kind of tune in, see how you're doing. It's going to be on Hit Tracks. We're going to be going through. There's going to be a prize for best costume. Going to be a prize for highest exit velo, prize for this distance, prize for the winners of the tournament, which is going to be a free bid into the Hit Tracks League that we're going to be doing right after that. So we'll have more details for that. We are having an early bird sign-up special for the league. I think, I don't have exact numbers, but it is a pretty good discount than if you were to wait. So I'll get that sent out. We'll have links below in the description. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're doing donations for canned food. So
Awesome.
Everybody that's participating is going to bring some, and then we're going to take it over to the North High School food bank.
Awesome.
I know the principal over there, and we're going to be trying to help out the community as we have Thanksgiving approaching.
Awesome. That'll be a lot of fun. It's for a good cause. You can get a nice little deal out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Fast Performance Baseball Podcast. You can follow Connor at fast_RBI on all social media platforms. And you can follow me, Cole Thomas, at cthomas624 on Twitter, Cole Thomas Fast on Instagram. And you can follow Fast at Fast Baseball on Instagram and on TikTok. And you can follow Fast Performance at Fast Performance CO on Instagram. We appreciate y'all for listening, and we will see you next Tuesday.